Hey y'all, welcome back to Liam's Tips and Tricks. This is our fourth video in our series on runes in depth. This is where we put it all together and focus on synergy, runes that work with each other as well as with your skills. I have some suggested sample sets as well as my personal preferences for GVG and Team PvP. It is important to note that rune choice largely depends on your playstyle, but I will go over my personal reasoning for my choices as we go. If you are enjoying my content, consider subscribing for future updates, drop a like or a comment, and let me know what you'd like to see discussed in the future. And also, I'd like to thank those folks that have been gracious and generous enough to donate to our channel. If you'd like to help support what we do here, there is a link in the description below. But enough with the blah blah, let's get it on. Alright, my first suggested rune set is your PvE set. So this would be what you use pretty much in every PvE setting, from stages to tower to raids, etc. You do have a few options as far as your power runes go. What I have selected here is both of the rage runes, Swift and Leech. Now, one thing that you can do is, if you don't really care for Swift rune, or if you don't really feel the need for Leech runes, you can actually swap in a Crippling rune, either Crippling Crit or Crippling Smite. Honestly, Crippling Smite would be the one I would consider using whenever you're attacking a debuffed enemy. Like, let's say, hypothetically, I replace my Swift rune with my Smite rune. So the way to get this to work is, if you have in your rage skills, if you have selected any of these, the defensive reduction effects, then the moment that you kill a monster with a rage skill, it gives all the surrounding monsters within a certain radius 10% defensive buff, or 25 or 50 for 5 seconds. So that fits in perfect with the Crippling Smite rune, which also gives you a damage bonus for that same 5 seconds. So while those monsters are debuffed, you can hit any of them and you'll be doing extra damage to them. So with our Swift rune and Smite rune and the defense debuff, I'm going to show you how it goes here. There's one rage skill, there's two, now you can see the defense debuff pop up, and Swift is active, and there we go, Crippling is active. So for that short period there, she's dealing more damage and faster. So that is one option. As far as the resistance runes go, I personally chose Guard and Chrono. And the reason I chose these is because when your hit points fall below 20%, you're kind of on the ropes. So this can help save you. And you could use the Escape rune if you wanted to. I don't tend to move around that much in PvE. There's not really that much running room in stages. It might be good for, say, high floors of tower. That might actually be useful there. Or like in the Arena of Trials, if they come out with that again. And finally, for our life runes, went ahead and went with Adamant rune to gain super armor. Once again, you do not get immunity to damage. It doesn't really increase your defense, but it prevents things like knockback and stun. Although you can still be slowed. I've had it trigger, and I've still been slowed even though the armor is triggered. And I also go with Leech because you can't beat evading and getting health back for it. Probably going to go ahead and swap back to Swift rune here. The other thing I do like about Swift rune instead is that it does last for 10 seconds, so it gives you the effect for a little bit longer. Another set for your consideration is what I call the Pure Offense set. And in this one, the whole purpose of the set is all effects that help you deal more damage quickly. So if you're the kind who likes to just get in and fight to the end and do as much damage as possible before you die, this would be the set that you would want to consider. First things first, I personally chose both of the Crippling runes, Crippling Crit and Crippling Smite, for debuffing, which is perfect when you're using any skill that has a debuff component to it. As I mentioned in the previous video, if you want to be able to see the debuff effects, you just need to make sure that you're selected on Team PvP or Duel, and then it will show you the bonuses here. Once again, stun is not considered a debuff for the purposes of rune triggering. Very important. Hypothetically, let's say I hit somebody with a debuff skill, the moment that I hit them afterwards, both of my runes trigger, and for the next 5 seconds I can do extra damage to a debuff target or get an extra crit rate bonus on any target. The other option here is you can go for Falcon Rune, which I would suggest for anybody who's able to keep your opponent up in the air for a while, like say the Assassin is well known for being able to bounce enemies into the air and keep them in the air. Falcon Rune instead of the Crippling Smite would probably be the best for them. It should also be noted that both Smite and Falcon Rune have the same damage amount. For your resistance runes for a pure offense set, I have chosen Parry. Whenever your hit points fall below 20%, it increases your attack by a certain percentage. Obviously, the higher the better. And also Chrono. If your hit points fall below 20%, it decreases the cooldown of all your skills. Just the B+ version of the Chrono rune reduces all of the skills cooldowns by 4.5 seconds. So keep in mind that this is a pure offense set. You're only worried about doing damage. Those are your two best options right there because they both increase your damage potential. And lastly, in the life rune section, once again, I have suggested Chrono and also Nimble Rune Crit. And once again, the reason is because this is a purely offensive set. You're only worried about dealing damage. You get a successful evade, you get a pretty sizable boost in your crit rate, especially at the higher levels. For our third recommended set, I have a pure defense set. Now with this one, since it is focused entirely on defense, whatever power runes you choose to use, they are all centered around attack. You can basically use any, whatever you'd like, and then defensive stats will come from your resistance and life rune choices. And in our pure defensive set, I have chosen Shield Rune Debuff and Guard. The reason is, whenever you get debuffed, you get an automatic damage decrease, which obviously will help you survive longer. And that is irregardless of what health you're at. Even if you're at, say, 100% health, somebody hits you with a debuff skill, then suddenly you're taking less damage for 5 seconds. Obviously, with the Guard rune, if your hit points fall below 20%, you get a huge increase in your defense for 5 seconds. So, between both of those, you will definitely notice an increase in your survival. And with your life runes, of course, we go for Leech, and then honestly, the other one is a choice. You can go for a Revival rune, because it does give you the highest amount of hit points, or you could go for another Chrono rune. It gives you the middle range of hit points. Once again, since it is a defensive reflex, whenever you're critically struck, it reduces the cooldown of all your skills. That will give you a chance to fight back or escape, or take out your opponent and escape. And I meant to note this earlier, but obviously, since we went over the PvE set first, each subsequent set after that is in regards to PvP. And the last of my suggested sets is the Speed set. This one is geared for everything that will give you the fastest, both movement speed as well as attack speed. So to that end, once again, as with the defensive set, you can use any power runes. For your resistance runes, I suggest using Escape. The moment your hit points fall below 20%, and movement speed increases, so you can run. And Chrono decreases all the skills cooldown timers, so you can attack back faster. And for your life runes, once again, we have Chrono. If you're doing GVG, the Revival rune will get you back into the battle that much faster after reviving. For my personal GVG set, I'm currently using this one, which is, oops, actually not this one. Go ahead and take out that Falcon rune. I use Smite and Crit because my ping and lag are high enough that I can almost never keep an opponent in the air. For myself, equipping a Falcon rune doesn't make sense, because I can't get the most out of it. But if I have an opponent debuffed, I'm more likely to have a chance to hit them. And for my resistance runes on my personal GBG set, I have chosen to go with Guard and Debuff, which is basically the exact same from the defensive set. And also, I use both Leech and Chrono. Those are just my personal preferences for my playstyle. As I said at the beginning of this, rune choice largely depends on your playstyle and what works best for you. I hope these gave you some ideas on what to try out for yourself, and go ahead and just give me your thoughts below and let me know how these work out for you.
Hey.
Upcoming videos that I'm currently working on include refining, pets, fishing, and a comprehensive power gain checklist. If you had something you'd like to see, just let me know. And thank you for watching, and happy hunting!
Cheers.